My name is Amy McFadden. I'm a consulting forester out of Georgetown, South Carolina. White Oak Forest Management was started in 2004, so we've been in business over 16 years. And our primary goal is to help landowners manage their property. We provide services for both industrial clients and for non-industrial private landowners. And that includes all sorts of land management, timber harvesting, reforestation, mapping, whatever might need to go on the property. We're full service management. We manage about 150,000 acres across the state of South Carolina, mostly in the PD region is where our focus is. When you're looking for a consulting forester, the Forestry Commission is always a great place to go to get started. They'll give you a list of folks in the area, and you can kind of dig deeper into that list by going to the Association of Consulting Foresters, the ACF website, or the South Carolina Labor Licensing website has people that are registered foresters. And in the state of South Carolina, to advise people in land management, you are supposed to be registered. ACF kind of takes that a little bit farther and more requirements on education and experience and ethics. And so the Association of Consulting Foresters is specifically for only consulting foresters. And then, of course, word of mouth. That's probably one of the best qualifiers in knowing that you're dealing with somebody reputable. I would advise basically treating it like a job interview. You know, pick 2 or 3 on that list that you maybe heard about, that you know other folks that have used them, and get in touch with each one and plan on spending some time and asking lots of questions. Some of the questions that you want to consider, experience-wise, what is their experience, not only, field experience and land management and writing management plans and doing timber sales, but if you have any, special interest areas, conservation easements, wetlands mitigation, specialty kind of things. And if you don't know what you want to do on your property, finding someone who's willing to walk through that process with you and find out, what some of the best things are to do on your property in order to develop your plan. Communication is key, and always having somebody with that open line of communication, whether it's text, email, phone call, making sure that it's somebody that you can get a hold of and responds to your needs. Probably one of the things I hear most often from my female landowners is, I feel like I'm asking too many questions. I'm sorry to bother you again. I'm speaking for myself, but I know I'm speaking for a lot of my colleagues. The reason that we are consulting foresters is because we enjoy helping people manage their property. And so you're not bothering us by asking questions. We want to make sure that we're doing what you are looking for us to do. We want to make sure that we're meeting the objectives that you have laid out, and that we're doing it in a way that you expected it to happen. And probably the worst thing you can do is not say anything. Personality and relationship is probably, the most important thing, because this is somebody that's going to walk you through managing your property, making some important decisions that are, essentially financial decisions, long-term impact on, on your family and ownership and those sorts of things. So it needs to be somebody that you trust, somebody that you're comfortable with. Many times, there's multiple family members involved, so you may not be the only one making the decision and working through the planning process with your consultant. It's always a good idea for family members to kind of be on the same page before they meet with their consultant. Maybe you inherited some property that already had a consultant. You're new in the relationship. They may not be new to the property, but they're new to you. And so have some ideas of what you want to look at. And that gives us better understanding of what you're looking for, so that we can help you set some objectives for your management plan. It's real important in property ownership to think about the next generation. Timber and land is a long-term investment. It's long-term planning. And so part of that long-term planning is, what do you intend to do with the property to try to keep it in the family? And so it's important to have those conversations with your consultant as well as with your tax advisor, because there's always different implications on how you organize an ownership, so that as it passes down through the years, you mitigate some of the tax implications. One of the most important things is continuity in the management of the property itself. So regardless of what you do, ownership and transferring wise, it's important to have that continuity of the management of the timber and the resource. So, you know, working with your consultant and bringing your kids on board, getting them involved now and kind of seeing what's going on and seeing what the long-term plan is and getting them on board is important. And we work with a wide variety of folks, you know, ones that they hire us to write the management plan so that they can give it to their kids and say, here, this is who you need to call when we're gone. To, you know, they're already trying to do the transition ahead of time. You need to have those conversations and think about where this property is going next, so that your consultant can help you keep things running smoothly as the ownership changes.
I'm Lora Lee Doerring, and I am the manager of Flowers Family Farm, LLC. We have property in Williamsburg and Georgetown counties. It is a family-owned business. The oldest piece of our property was actually a dowry gift that my great-grandmother brought to her new husband, my great-grandfather. So I'm talking late 1800s when that happened. And from there we grew, right now I believe about 1,000 acres under management. My father used to manage this. He had always used a consulting forester. And we had one for many, many years, he and his son, but for various health reasons and other economic reasons, they got out of the business in 2016 when my father had passed and my mother is in a assisted living. When forestry is not your primary focus in life, there was no doubt in our family's mind that we needed a consulting forester. To me, a consulting forester, it is that relationship where you know that they listen to you, but yet they give you, based on their experience and their years in the business, guide you and tell you the best way to manage your assets. And timber is an asset. We found White Oak Forestry Services and Amy in particular because she's local. Our family, we all grew up in Andrews, South Carolina. That was home. My brothers and I do not live in that area any longer, and we have no other family in the area. It was very important to us to have someone like Amy who could be eyes on our property when we needed it and could help us manage from afar. Amy just fit our bill, and the chemistry we had the first time we met, we all agreed was going to be perfect for what we were looking for. I can email her, I can text her, I can call her, and when I do get down to the area, I usually just include a stop to just stop by the office and touch base with her. Having her there and her expertise, it's not just because she's local. She is a powerhouse, and her knowledge and depth of the industry, you know, the more you talk to her, the more you know you can rely on her judgment about things, and that puts us at ease. Having somebody with that expertise and knowledge of the industry allows us to know we're being managed very well. She produced a wonderful management plan for us and helped us see how we could better manage our timber resources for overall continuation of our family's heritage. And you know, our goal is to continue this and pass it on down to my children and my brother's children. So The management plan is wonderful. We all have it. We refer to it. And it's been right on point, pretty true as far as our activity in cutting and planning and maintaining what we have. It does remove a lot of that conflict about who's going to take care of what, when are you doing that? Well, I didn't know you were doing that sort of thing. So it's really beneficial. It helps us map our future, having the roadmap she's presented in that management plan. As we go through this, trust is something you develop, and we have complete trust in, not only the management of the flow of funds and charges and things. Everything is so well documented. We've never had a reason to question any of that. But just when she says, no, let's hold off, we'll do that one next year, I've looked, things need to wait a little bit, it just makes it very easy to have complete confidence in her guidance.